Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening from. Welcome to the Change Management Simplified podcast, where we will explain and discuss what change management is really about, using real examples alongside principles of change management based on experiences on projects, transformations, change initiatives, and of course, the home experiences as well. Hello and welcome back to the Change Management podcast. And thank you for returning. I'm assuming it's because you like these episodes or are finding them interesting. Please continue to subscribe, to follow, and to like, and also to add comments. And also, I'd like to encourage you to please submit your questions. I want to make these episodes as interactive, relevant, and appropriate for the listeners as well. They're not going to be lecture based because I'm not a lecturer and I don't want to make it too boring. And also, I use my personal experiences to try and demonstrate the message that I'm trying to get across from a change management or leadership perspective. Now, the back of episode 12, I got some feedback from a listener who did say I was a little bit harsh with the new leaders. And they asked me if I could at least highlight the bad habits of a bad leader so that they can at least learn from them, which is a fair request. So I am back. And the question that I have in front of me is, what are my top 10 habits and signs of a bad leader that I've observed over the 10, 15 years in my working career? First and foremost, number one, pure communicators. If you cannot communicate or articulate properly your requirements to those you're working with, especially maybe in the project environment where you're time bound or working with external providers, one, it will lead to inefficiencies. Two, the team will become overwhelmed with the inefficiencies and become demotivated. So, for example, if whatever I have experienced is, I'm going to apologize using new leaders again, who've come in, they want to know everything. They feel they need to know everything to be able to present to the exec committee or to the CFOs or the chief actuary, which is usually not the case. If you've got individuals around you with technical expertise, you can always lead the presentation and always pull in or call on those individuals with the expertise to give a bit more context, technical context. Never will a CFO, a chief actuary, or an EC expect you to know everything because they know not every single one of them as well on that committee have all the technical expertise to run a whole company. So they rely on individuals like yourself. So it's important that you communicate your requirements, your expectations clearly up front so that people can go off and start off at the right point and deliver what you expect and for you to avoid disappointment. Number two, indecisiveness. Leaders or people who cannot decide or conclude or come to a decision of which direction a decision, a configuration has to go or a strategy, that's really frustrating because at the end of the day, you're going to send your team round circles, waste time again, which again, it's not available when you have a project with an external timeline. So it's important that you are decisive. Basically, you make decisions in a timely manner and also avoid any stress, any increase in stress levels by the team because they can see the time is running out. And also, the earlier you make decisions, if it's the wrong decision, you can learn from it sooner than later. If it's the wrong decision and you make it too late, you'll be on the chop. Your job is gone. I can guarantee you that. I have seen so many people fired over my 10, 15 years on projects, being fired because they didn't make the decision in time, or because they couldn't make a decision, or they refused to make a decision, or just avoided making the decision, and therefore the team just didn't know what to do. Number three, um, Number three, Lack of accountability and ownership. This is really, I take this one quite personal, and I'm telling you not to get personal, but this I take personal because you find individuals or leaders who, when things are going well, they'll say, yes, um, they did a great job, and and the team, they did a great job, and the team did a great job. But when things are wrong, they will say, oh, that's the team's fault. And I've experienced this over and over again where we're in a meeting presenting to the steering committee or to the exec committee or to the CFOs, and somehow in the presentation something changed, a number changed, and we didn't notice it because we were pushed for time, but we had been working long hours. However, we relied on our team lead to ensure that everything we have on the slides is exactly what he expected or she expects. Because also they've got a much fresher pair of eyes, because we've been looking at these slides over and over for several hours. We're bound to miss something. But at some point during the presentation, there was an error on one of the slides, and the CFO nicely, politely picked up on it, and he highlighted it. And the only thing that the team lead could do or what was said was, "Oh, that was the team fault. The team needs to look into that." That was the most demotivating statement for people who've been working very long hours and on the weekends, to be thrown under the bus by the team lead. What you can usually do or say is, apologies for that. We will take that away and we'll fix it. That's just an error that occurred that we didn't notice, but we do have the right numbers. Instead of throwing your team under the bus and all of a sudden it's the team against you or the team versus you. So when things are not right, it's the team's fault. When they're all right, it's a team effort or team celebration. That you need to take ownership, you need to take accountability. That shows a great leader and one who's ready to drive and deliver what they expected to do. Number four, another bad habit and the sign of a bad leader is the personal ego. You'll find these individuals again making decisions that are in their favor over the teams or in the best interest for the company. I've had this scenario where a team lead decided, somehow convinced the steering committee and the CFOs that the team that currently runs the deliverables or the project we were working on um, can be made redundant. There were about 6, 7 people in that team, and he could run it with two people plus himself. I don't know how he managed to convince them, but they somehow got convinced. And yes, that team got made redundant. We lost a very good technical, skilled team lead who was running that team, had just managed to stabilize it over the 2 years. And all they needed was to get the additional requirements that were coming in on top of what they were doing. 2 months later, 3 months later, they were looking for equivalent in that team, which is just ridiculous. But also at the same time, this ego-based leader who made a decision or convinced the people of decision that's in his favor ended up not even getting a job. He ended up having no role to go to because of the behavior he demonstrated, because all this bad behavior came to light over the duration of the project. And we were coming to the end, and it was just too much. So no one really actually wanted to inherit him as a team lead because they were just that awful. Number five, the other bad habit and sign of a bad leader is lack of vision. A leader that does not have a vision will lose focus and therefore will lose the team in terms of their focus. It will become an inefficient team. It will become a very disorganized team that would have no direction. So it's important you have a vision. You focus on it, you get the team to focus on it. If you cannot focus, your team cannot focus. So it's important you keep focus of it as well. Number six, another habit and sign of a bad leader is micromanaging. I'm going to stress this very nicely and very politely. Please stop doing it. If you're a leader, you need to step away from micromanaging your team. You have hired individuals with technical expertise who can do their job, unless if you didn't hire appropriately. But that's a different topic. That's a different story. Where you have the technical skill set within your team, allow them to have their space to do their job. Stop micromanaging. The teams hate being micromanaged, especially those who are experienced and can do the job. But of course, if they need your support and need some guidelines or guidance, be present, be available. You as a leader, your time, you hear me stress this more and more often, you would be spending, and we expect you to be spending more time unblocking our obstacles as a team, managing the stakeholders across the business who are impacted by this change. We expect you to make sure that we're still focused and giving us guidelines and motivating us to do what we need to do and helping us make decisions or obtain decisions for the steering committee in time so that we can continuously work towards that timeline without being squeezed at the end. So please stop micromanaging and spend more time on those activities that I've just described because they are time consuming as much as you micromanaging them. Also, it will help you not to overwhelm yourself by working or doing too many activities and overworking yourself in long hours and burning yourself out. Number seven, the other bad habit and sign of a bad leader is picking on mistakes only. If you only pick on the mistakes that the team or point out the mistakes that the team are doing and never point out the positiveness or the correct ones that they actually do or the wins that they actually achieve as a team, what can I say to you? Get a grip for goodness sake. You are supposed to do both. Get the balance right. Where there is a mistake, don't get me wrong, do point it out, but point it out in a way that's not demeaning to them or condescending to them. Provide them the guidance with respect as well. Don't say it like, oh, there's a mistake there, and yet you could be wrong as well. You never know what assumptions were applied. You just don't need to point that out in front of the whole team. You can have that discussion separately, just trying to understand why they took that approach versus the approach that you took, and then have a collaborative discussion to get to the right answer. Be positive, pick up on the positives, encourage them to continue doing the great work that they're doing, and remember to say thank you. Those two words go a long way. There's no need. It doesn't help you pushing the team to work hard and never say thank you. Number eight is lack of empathy. If you lack empathy, it's going to be very difficult for you to put yourself in the impacted stakeholders' shoes or those that you're talking to be able to understand the issues they're raising and therefore able to have a constructive discussion and get them on board to see the opportunities that this change could bring for them as well, and therefore bring them on the journey with you with continued support. Number nine, the other habit and sign of a bad leader is a terrible listener. Now, there's a difference between hearing and listening. I am going to say it again. There's a difference between hearing and listening. You can hear, but you choose to listen. And it's important that you, as a leader, you listen to what's being said to you. Regardless of the level of the individual talking to you, you treat each stakeholder, as I mentioned in episode 11, with respect because you don't know why they're saying or complaining about something, and you never know that issue could be the root cause to probably the beginning of the failure of your project. So listen carefully, take out the good points, filter through any bad ones. Don't take any feedback personal, but take the points, the improvement points away, see how you can work on them. Number 10, another sign and a bad habit and sign of a bad leader is those who always think they are right. Come on now. We're human beings, we're people, we're never always right. We're not perfect. So you need to and, you know, calm down and realize that sometimes you might be wrong. You're not always going to be right. And therefore, you have to have this open demeanor where you are approachable, whereby people can actually come and have an open discussion with you or a debate, especially on a technical or principle based, for example, on a regulatory change standard. Those are all very debatable topics. Or, every single paragraph you come to, I might think about it differently from how you might have interpreted it. So you need to be open and be able to have a debate, a constructive debate, which will get you to the better solution. And I'm hoping, as that's my last point, for the new leaders and for those leaders who had not come across these summary 10 habits and signs of a bad leader, please avoid these and continuously continue develop to become a more effective and successful leader. And the other thing you have to remember, habits are learned, and these bad habits can therefore be unlearned, which means that you can turn from a bad leader to a good leader and successfully retain your position for several years until when you decide to retire. Now, thank you for listening and hope to see you next week. If you find this podcast beneficial or interesting, please press follow, like, or subscribe. Lastly, and of course, don't forget to spread the word by sharing. Thank you for listening.